Welcome to the Friends of the Outdoors broadcast, and today I'm going to talk about a new precedent that was literally just established earlier today from the courts in Connecticut that literally redirects the responsibility and blame of criminal activities onto the object used by the criminal instead of the criminal themselves. Stay tuned. Good afternoon, everybody. It has just come to my attention that Connecticut Supreme Court has just ruled today that the gun manufacturer Remington it is now okay. Basically, they are permitting Remington to be sued from the shooting that happened in Connecticut, the school shooting that happened in Connecticut. This ruling to me just made me have to go and create this video and podcast, because to me, it really is this disturbing fact and spot in our country that I think really needs to be thought about in a smart and educated mindset. Let me just talk about this for a second. Someone made a decision to go out with an intention to do harm, an individual, and what they decided to use to do the harm is now being held responsible instead of the person actually doing it. Let's just tell you what that sounds like to me, what they're trying to say. If this is the new way it's going to be, if this is the way it's going to be where individuals aren't held for their responsible for their actions, and we're not blame something else, right? By the way, I think that's one of the major problems with our country today is people aren't given they don't have to, they're not taught to take personal responsibility. It's always the fault of something else or someone else. But nonetheless, if this is the case, if this is the new standard by which we're going to do this, General Motors should now be sued because of my friend's father who got killed by a guy driving a Chevy. Does that make any sense to you? Right? How about this one? In this standard, American Airlines then should now be able to be sued for the killing of thousands of people in New York City when a madman terrorist flew it in to the World Trade Center and killing thousands of people. American Airlines should be sued, right? How about this one? Budweiser should also be sued, right? For the thousands of people killed every year from drunk drivers. How about this one? The knife manufacturers all across the world should be sued every single time somebody stabs someone, right? How about the mobile phone companies? Should the mobile phone companies be sued for every single time someone gets killed because someone is texting and driving? Is that where we're at now? I mean, does this make any common sense to you? You know, I'm an outdoorsman. I'm a sportsman and outdoorsman, and I think this is preposterous, and I can't believe that the intelligence of a Supreme Court in Connecticut could even rationalize that this has any common sense whatsoever, and it doesn't open a Pandora's box when it comes down to other things. But here's the problem, y'all. This is what we have. We're in a position now where people want to have something to blame instead of just blaming the individuals, right? So, all right. If it's not just the individual, let's talk about who should be blamed in this type of situation. School shootings is something that should never happen. And it is completely preventable. Totally preventable. So if we just protect the schools with guards? But here's the reality. There's politicians that have decided and voted to make schools gun-free zones, right? Which, by the way, makes them the easiest and most susceptible targets in the world, with the most, to me, the most valuable, cargo in the buildings. And these politicians say they're gun-free zones and are not going to make a decision to protect these kids, while all the while, these politicians that are deciding that are being protected themselves by armed guards. But they won't protect our kids, but they'll protect themselves. Insane to me. They should be the ones that are sued. They're not protecting our kids. Right? How about the mental health institution? Here's another one that could be sued. Mental health institution feeds people that have psychological issues psychotic meds, and these meds have side effects like dreamlike states and suicidal tendencies, and sometimes both. And when you put those things together, it's a recipe for disaster. And almost every single one of these mass shootings happened from someone who had some kind of psychotic background or on psychotic drugs. That's another thing that's the blame, right? Not the manufacturer of a gun or a knife or a vehicle or of liquor. It's what's causing the susceptibility of our kids in the school because they're not being protected, right? Or the way we are just medicating people with drugs that cause side effects and letting them out on the streets free to do these type of things. That's who should be held responsible. Another thing, and I know this is going to be controversial to say, but I think the biggest problem is we're not teaching personal responsibility in our country anymore, right? Every time somebody does something wrong, we want to blame something or someone else or some situation or circumstance, right? So how about the parents? Should the parents in this country be liable, held responsible? Because when their kid does something that causes harm to someone else, our generation, instead of holding the people responsible, now blame something else or something else, like a firearm manufacturer or something ridiculous like that. Right? It's the decision of the person, and it's personal responsibility. You know, I started my nonprofit, Friends of the Outdoors, because I'm passionate about the outdoors, about the outdoor heritage. But the most important reason why I am passionate about that is because it is something that teaches children. It gives them experiences that they've never had in their life, whether it be fishing, camping, hunting, shooting, it teaches respect. It teaches core values like the value of life. It teaches personal responsibility. We teach all these things to kids in our nonprofits, and they're such respectful kids. They have such a great time. But the most important thing is they learn core values that in our country, all the way up to the Supreme Court of a state, don't even hold people to that standard. It's just insane to me. I think it's time that this message is heard loud and clear, and we stop going after the complete wrong parties and start going for the actual core of the problem. And the core of the problem in this situation that they're trying to go after a gun manufacturer is we're not making people have personal responsibility, we're not protecting our kids, and literally, we're letting mentally ill people go on drugs that have side effects that would cause them to do the exact same things that they're doing in these shootings. It's insane to me. It's time to stand up and make things right and go after the proper problems and the core root of the issue and not use it as a political agenda anymore to try to disarm the population and public. It's ridiculous, and that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening.